Hi students, welcome to week 4. This is a video sort of on the cusp, right? Because we're at the end of week 3, you had an extra day, so you're going to be, headed into week 4 actually a day late, but I think that's okay. So week 1 we did, can we speak of beginnings? We looked at, how we come into our lives, and there are some things that are already sort of loaded. We don't come in a blank slate. I think we kind of agree on that. Week 2, how do we become? This was thinking about adolescence broadly, and how we take the lives we're born into, and we might push back, we might co-create with others, different ways of being. And what the costs are. This is something that we haven't talked about explicitly, but I think we've talked about it more in a critical valence, and maybe ignored the positives, right? So there are more traditional fundamental systems, both limiting, but sometimes people stay because they also are comfortable and offer protections, and there's security, and when we are able to express ourselves more individually, sometimes there's a cost to that. Sometimes we lose some of those protections, or we have to do a lot of the work ourselves to create communities. So if we leave a community we're born into, which we might have to do, many of us have to do, because of all kinds of reasons. There can be abuse, there can be compromises that that don't feel right, that we're not willing to make. There can be toxic kind of environments, but there can be a cost. There are things we lose sometimes, and we might not have a choice about that. So then we have to recreate, co-create with others, new ways of being. Then in week 3, we looked at a little bit of what that means. So in How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Others in America, we read just one slim chapter in that, and it was composed of letters, right? Epistolary chapter. And this communication, these letters that build one onto the next with this young community of men. Each of whom I've posted a video that's connected to. So you can take a look at those. They're not required. That's just, if you're interested, if you have time, you want to learn more about who these young writers and activists are, then you can check them out in the week 3 folder. Also what does it mean to be displaced? And, there are all kinds of communities that live in diaspora. And so that's something that I think that the email conversation, so again, sort of letters in this bridge we call home, the 2 sisters who are writing back and forth to one another. And then Evita, which I posted the chapters 1, 2, and 3. I can't do that every week. So you're going to have to find a way to get that book, but I hope that helps some of you out for week 3. Week 4, so this is where we're starting, Next Generations. We'll read this piece by Peggy Orenstein. She was in Japan. She was away from her partner, and it's about a pregnancy loss and how she finds a ritual that is of some comfort to her, but also it's kind of interesting because she's self-critical. So she's thinking, this isn't really my space. It's not my tradition. Like, am I stepping over boundaries? And this is written some time ago, 2002. So now we're in 2017. I think there's even more awareness, like, you don't want to appropriate someone else's religious ceremony. And yet I think she does it carefully and thoughtfully, and I'll leave that to you to think about. And then Danny Miller's McDonald's Truly Happy Meals. Danny Miller is a cultural anthropologist. He works on material culture and our connections to consumerism. And here is a mother who has a pretty unhappy childhood, and views her parents, I think she says in the piece, as an example of how not to parent. And she very consciously wants to parent her children in a different way. And it's about a ritual she creates. And I think the chapter manages to be compassionate towards that ritual, but also to ask us to call certain facets of it into, to put it under consideration and to think more about it. And then we read a very painful letter from Juan Gelman. Gelman's a very, very famous poet in Argentina. He has since passed away, but this was a letter he wrote to a grandchild. He didn't know if it was a granddaughter or a grandson, but that he knows was born and that he's actively looking for. And it raises all kinds of questions about loss and about war, and the church is implicated in some way in this. And so we'll have lots to talk about with that. Meanwhile, you'll read a little more of Santa Evita, and we'll be thinking more about that. One thing I wanted to encourage you, so you've done 2 sets of discussion boards. The week 4, you'll do your 3rd set of discussion board. There are a few things you can do to strengthen your posts. One is to run them through spell and grammar check. That's an easy thing to do. We all make typos. We all, sometimes we go back in to change a word and then we accidentally, kind of rearrange the sentence in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense. If you write in Word or some other word processing program, run a spell and grammar check. Very easy to do. Then post it into the discussion board. Secondly, if there's anything I can direct you to do, it's write with specificity. And what that means is that you ground your work not in vague and general terms, but that you give details, that you look back to what we've been reading, you reference a film. If you're talking about something that happened in your own life, you may not want to disclose, and I'm not asking you to disclose anything you don't want to, but you're welcome to write about your own experiences, but then tie it into the reading. How does it connect? And then give us something. Give us a sentence that you quote. Give us a short detail related to the reading or to one of the short documentaries or films, and take us there. Okay, show us. Take us by the hand and tell us why you're thinking this way. That's something that's fairly easy to do that will strengthen your writing, definitely in academia, everywhere else too, really. Your readers they're not inside your head, so you have to take us really deeply into your thoughts. Okay, so I think we have a very exciting week this week. And I also posted, because today's Dia de los Muertos, I posted a couple very short documentary pieces about that, and I think you'll find them interesting. I happen to like material culture, and I'm very fascinated with how different cultures process death. And you'll see Dia de los Muertos is a fusion of many different religious and cultural facets. So I hope you enjoy, and I'm sorry for my messy office, but filled with books. So anyway, write me if you have any questions, concerns, if there are things that you were looking for in this class that you're saying, gee, when are we going to talk about, or when are we going to read about this? Just send me an email or post it on the hallway conversations, and we can make space for it in the class, because this is not my class. This is our class. And If you have things you think, gee, it'd be interesting if we could talk about such and such, just send me an email or post to Hallway Conversations, and we'll see what we can do about making that happen. So, okay, thanks, and I will post again soon.